Story 1. Just being adaptable, able to work with everyone. If you have a personality that can easily connect with someone in their 60s or someone in their 20s, they can put you in just about any situation and you will thrive. Story 2. Curiosity. I want to know everything about whatever I am working on. I want to have full awareness. When something breaks down, I want to know why. It is a characteristic woefully underrepresented and underdemonstrated in corporate life. Story 3. I have been telling people for years that I can read rooms like nobody else. Not in a creepy way, just always knowing when someone is mentally checked out, when there is tension, or when clients are about to ghost us even though they are being polite. I found this out by accident. Kept pulling coworkers aside after meetings saying, "You seemed off today," and they would be shocked I noticed. Or I would tell my boss, "We are losing the Johnson account," based on pure intuition, and sure enough, rejection email arrived 3 days later. I thought everyone could do this, but apparently not. Friends would ask, "How did you know Sarah was upset?" And I would think, wasn't it obvious from her face? A career test I took called Pigment Career Discovery identified this as interpersonal resonance. A fancy way of saying you pick up on emotional cues without trying. Now I use it strategically, suggesting topic changes when meetings go nowhere and predicting difficult questions based on body language. I cannot put good at reading people on a resume, but it has probably saved us many deals. Half of workplace drama could be avoided if people just paid attention to faces instead of only words. Story 4. You know how when you have a recurring problem on your computer, but when you call the information technology specialist over to reproduce it, it somehow works. I am that information technology specialist. Every single time. Story 5. Extremely high boredom threshold. Happy doing a lot of the incredibly boring but important administrative tasks that no one wants to do, especially high-level or director-level tasks that they dislike but do not want someone else to handle. Send them my way. Story 6. Excel is on the resume, but most people lack the understanding to appreciate how useful a competent Excel user truly is. Story 7. I really take my time to plan work. It may sound simple, but if you actually plan the most efficient path, it is very valuable and means I get things done quicker and with better quality. Story 8. I know a little bit about almost everything. There is very little I cannot figure out pretty quickly with 5 minutes of background information. Story 9. I thrive under pressure and can see clearly even in chaos. I'm not sure how or why. I'm just built this way, I guess. Story 10. I don't mention it because I am sure it cannot be sold in an interview or resume, but I build tools to use the tools. Sometimes mine, sometimes other teams. A coworker on another team needs to click through 2,000 pages to delete all of the data related to something because the interface is terrible. There is a public application programming interface for this service or one that can easily be reverse engineered. I spend unused time from my lunch breaks, downtime between tasks, and a few minutes at the end of the day building something so that task becomes one button press and takes seconds or minutes instead of hours. At one job at a place that ran a bunch of online stores, I was confused as to why they hired me. They were hiring programmers to do basic database changes. They were paying pretty well too. I built them basic create, read, update, delete tools to build the structured query language they were writing and left after 3 months because there was nothing else and it was boring. Story 11. I am the one who makes friends with everybody. I know Reddit is inclined towards work is work and I do not get paid to socialize. But in my opinion, a workplace full of people you like and hang out with is more productive than one where everyone is silent. It is certainly a space I would rather be in. Story 12. Apparently, I am very likable and entertaining. The first quality is good. The second is a little dangerous. Story 13. I am fast and can work while someone is talking to me. I had a coworker who talked continuously at work and did not get anything done. However, I could continue working despite the noise. Story 14. Being the unofficial office therapist, somehow everyone ends up venting to me, and I'm just sitting there like, "Girl, I just came for my coffee." But I swear it keeps the team sane and prevents drama from blowing up. Story 15. I am going to go against the grain of the question a bit. Your resume should not showcase your strengths. It should showcase the results you achieve, which may be due to your strengths. When you get to the interview, Then talk about your strengths and weaknesses. If you have a hard time knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, ask a trusted colleague, current or former, for help. Not necessarily to give you the answer, but to seed it. You will still need to introspect and come up with a plan on how to present it in an interview. One skill you should develop is one I see frequently criticized on Reddit. Make friends with people you work with. In my experience, those opportunities are few and far between. Honestly, making friends with colleagues is going to help you far more than having the ideal resume and perfect interview skills. Are there toxic environments where this will backfire? Yes. But as Mark Twain once observed, if a cat sits on a hot stove, it will not sit on a hot stove again. That cat will not sit on a cold stove again either. That cat just does not like stoves. Story 16. I am very good at reading body language and holding small talk conversations. It is especially useful in the corporate world, but not something I can brag about on a resume. It is a show do not tell skill. Except I am telling everyone right now. Story 17. I crack them all everywhere I have been. You know the type. I do not take nonsense. I am the man. I am going to bully anyone weaker. Time to lean, time to clean. I just smile pleasantly and politely ignore them. Quietly stand up to them. Clearly protect others from them without escalating. And in the moments their blood cools and they are receptive, absolutely kill them with kindness and compassion. I am pretty sure I contributed to one of them having a stroke because once the tactics that worked so well for decades failed on me, they suddenly had to deal with a new reality and it broke them. He recovered. I helped build him back up. He is the softest spoken, nicest guy now. I still keep in touch from time to time. Villains are not born, they are made. And they can be unmade. I had my own villain arc, but I did not enjoy it. I just learned from it. Once you accept all the good and all the bad and just want everyone to get along and have a good time most of the time, then the nonsense falls away. Story 18. I can run meetings very effectively. My meetings start and end on time and I get tasks completed. People also appreciate my meetings and want to attend, so absences are much less of an issue. Story 19. I'm the fixer. The tough jobs, challenging conditions, emergency work, one-off projects, the tasks that people do not want to do, the projects that have become disorganized, all of these typically get sent to me. It is because I am annoyingly reliable, abnormally resilient, and very results-driven. I do not care if I want to do something, if the conditions will be uncomfortable, or how many extra hours I will have to work. I do not complain or try to find reasons why I should not have to do something or attempt to pass it off to someone else. I take a task I am given and focus on it until it is done, no matter what it takes. It does not matter if I am in the office coordinating suppliers and contractors on a complicated job, or if I am in the field working with tools at minus 40 degrees Celsius for more than 12 hours to help get a frozen piping system back in service. Like my dad taught me growing up, if you have a job to do, you do not have to like it. You just have to do it. Story 20. I learned from a former principal that if we see problems that need solving or issues that should be fixed, we need to bring possible solutions and ideas. I work with people who complain and wait for others to figure it out while I already have 5 ideas. Story 21. Catching things people miss. It has happened at every job I have had. From a ram air turbine drag increase not being accounted for in engine-out glide distances for decades in several aircraft, to a technician missing a broken item on a robot that almost entered a nuclear reactor. I noticed it on a camera feed because of how the light was passing through it. My career trajectory has been quite unusual. Story 22. If you are a manager, you need the ability to communicate expectations clearly. Grit is the ability to work through a variety of problems without giving up. Story 23. I get pretty good grades, not perfect. Let's pretend this is relevant to the job. I finish 3-hour exams in 45 minutes and get an A-. A 3.7 completed quickly is much more valuable to most employers than a 4.0 done slowly. Productivity versus perfection. Few employers choose the latter. I have no clear way to indicate my productivity on resumes. The grade point average is just a straightforward way of explaining it here. Things are not timed in real life, so it is harder to quantify. The best example I had showing this to an employer was at an informal interview. when I told them my latest degree was completed in 8 months instead of the usual 12 minimum. Sometimes it is not desirable to indicate productivity. At my main job so far, I worked until there was no work left, which was about 20 hours a week. I do not want to look lazy, even though I accomplished a great deal and made my company a significant amount of money. Story 24. Not getting sick. I have nearly 150 accumulated sick days. In a career where substitutes cost $300 a day and the students still lose out, that adds up. Story 25. My intelligence. Due to some unfortunate circumstances, I did not have an education. I received my General Educational Development Certificate while pregnant at age 18. I had not been in a classroom since 6th grade. I had promises of Ivy League scholarships prior to being withdrawn. I scored high enough on my General Educational Development test to be offered college credits for free. I quit school because I was working in fast food and was told I would be promoted to management if I had open availability. In every industry I have worked in, I have gone from entry level to upper management within the first year. I have an eidetic memory that makes mastering new skills easy. Several employers have taken advantage of this, and finding my place in the world has been hard. I finally found an employer who appreciates me without taking advantage of my capabilities. It is pretentious to list my intelligence quotient or cite my intelligence on a resume. And let's be honest, General Educational Development and some college are not impressive. Story 26. My ability to exaggerate is extraordinary. Place me in any meeting, and I will confidently talk my way through it and probably get promoted. Story 27. My intuition is exceptionally sharp about people. I can take one glance and know whether they are a good person or not. Can I prove it? No, but I am confident in expressing my opinion immediately and giving you a warning if they are trouble. Story 28. I have controlled the environment at my job even though it is toxic. It is just less toxic than before. Story 29. I am very good at identifying paperwork problems. Unfortunately, I am not great at solving these problems. Story 30. I have a knack for deeply understanding and navigating systems. This works great for motors and computers. Story 31. Working in healthcare, I try to humanize my patients as much as I can and not sound like a robot or treat them like a number. Story 32. I take feedback really well. I work in customer service and can handle upset customers like no one else. It is not on my resume, but I mention it in interviews. It is a skill you have to see in action to understand. Story 33. I do not need to be micromanaged. I have had multiple supervisors tell me, I love that I can give you a task and leave it at that because I know you will get it done. There is no need to follow up with me, hound me, or check in. Just leave me alone, and I will get the job done. I love it, you love it, we are all happy. Story 34. I've got a deep, soothing voice and I don't get flustered. Have you got an angry customer? Send them to me. You need someone to present at your meeting? I'm your person. You need someone to say, oh dear, and cluck disapprovingly while describing your mother-in-law's latest antics? Listen to me. Story 35. Being calm and level-headed, and not causing colleagues to wonder which version of you is coming to work that day. Story 36. I don't know what to actually call this, but I am good at making things happen. I have been good at it since middle school. I am good at working for long stretches of time to make sure I meet a deadline or going out of my way to do extra tasks in order to make something happen if it is important to me or someone else. If someone says, but there is no way you could possibly do a certain amount of work in that amount of time, I can probably do it. This was one benefit of my family always choosing days or weeks in the middle of the school year for vacations and fun trips. I love traveling and fun trips, but I also worry if my grade goes any lower than a B. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism, and it usually works in my favor for situations like this because of how my thought process goes. I want to go on the trip, but I also want to finish my work on time so I can keep my grades up. My brain hyperfocuses on the trip, which makes me excited and think, I have to finish everything if I want to go. This causes me to hyperfocus on finishing everything on time, no matter what, to make sure I get both things I want, the trip and to keep my grades. In ninth grade, I literally got home from school and worked until 1 a.m. finishing a history presentation a couple of days before a trip to New York City, just because I wanted both things that badly. I do not even know how I do it because I am not the fastest or most productive worker, but so far there has never been a project, either school or work, that I had to quit because I could not make it happen or finish it, except for times when I got sick or something else totally out of my control made it impossible. Story 37. I show up at 110% and a good attitude every single day. I treat work like it is my favorite sport. I am here to grow as a person and succeed. I am so competitive with myself that I often create efficiencies no one else considered. And that is why I started working for myself. Story 38. Agency. I can articulate it somewhat on a resume, but everyone does to some degree, so it's difficult to stand out. Steve Jobs said once that it is freeing to realize the whole world and all of its systems and processes were built by people who aren't smarter than you. I learned early in my career that in most professional jobs, especially in an office setting, you can just do things. Many believe you have to check with the right people or fill out a form to get or do what you need. In reality, you can often just do it on your own. You don't need to ask permission, hold a meeting, or even bring it up. You can simply do it. Recognizing what I need to do and just doing it has enabled me to make much faster progress and open many doors to new opportunities. See the whole situation and just do it. Story 39. Whenever there is an unpleasant or tedious but necessary task to do, I am the first to volunteer. I will do it. Story 40. I have a good amount of common sense and critical thinking. I can identify future problems early, even in departments where I do not work. Story 41. My attention deficit hyperactivity disorder allows me to see problems from all angles and come up with solutions no one has thought of. It is like I am a third-party observer instead of being inside the problem. Story 42. I bring people together. I make work fun. I am approachable at all times. I do my job and then some. I go out of my way to help others. Story 43. I just get things done quietly and efficiently. I let those who want the spotlight have it. All I want is recognition in a way that matters to me. Story 44. I am an extrovert. Apparently, those are rare these days. My job currently involves volunteering me for anything that includes talking or networking because I honestly just love to do it. I could do small talk for hours and it energizes me. Story 45. I can finish my work without asking anyone for help. If I encounter a problem, I find a way to solve it on my own. People say it is because I am a fast learner, but honestly, it is just because I am an introvert and I dislike bothering others. Story 46. A logical thought process. I never considered it a bonus until the last few years when I realized just how many people around me do not think through a problem or process logically. It usually makes problem solving simple. Story 47. The biggest challenge I have encountered is the phrase, I can learn new things rapidly. I have been a software engineer for 35 years. At this stage in my career, you do not just learn new programming languages when needed, you actually learn how to learn new languages. If I have to learn a new language, I can do it in a few days or less because many languages are similar in various ways. However, the statement, I can learn new things, does not come across on resumes. You either know the language required by the job description, or you do not. There is no nuance. There is no indication such as, he knows 9 other languages and can pick up a 10th quickly. You must have the language listed as a keyword on your resume to get an interview, even if you could become proficient in a few days. The phrase, I can learn new things easily, is meaningless. Story 48. Reliability and loyalty. People come and go, taking their valuable experience with them. I have worked at my current place for 10 years with relatively little sick leave, unlike many of my colleagues, and they will have to drag me out kicking and screaming before I leave. I have about another 10 years before I retire. I am also quite flexible and good at what I do. Story 49. I can figure out the twist in almost any television show, movie, or book long before it happens. It ruins a lot of things for me. Story 50. I am the person who stays calm when everything goes wrong. Deadlines sometimes stress people, but they look to me because they know I will not panic. That steady energy keeps teams grounded. Story 51. Here are the corporate superpowers I have learned that do not show up on a resume. 1. Make decisions and stop deferring. When I start a job and ask my supervisor or manager for their thoughts, I already have in mind what I want to do. After a while, they start matching my ideas, and that is when I usually begin making those decisions myself. It becomes a superpower because no one wants to be the decider, yet that is where all the power lies. I earn much more grace than I expected and become involved in more high-level decisions. Leadership does not want to micromanage decisions. Having a good attitude. It can be difficult sometimes, but I am here to get paid. If you want me to do basic tasks today, I will do them well because I am getting paid. Coworkers will not hear me complain about home, life, or work. I greet everyone with a smile and share positive feedback with managers when I have had a good experience with one of their employees. I want to be the person others want to work with, and it is honestly a life hack. Willingness to embrace the difficult tasks. Do the projects no one else wants to do. It is surprising you will never be judged because people are just happy you are doing it. You become much more valuable. Story 52. Reading the group emails. I used to manage a small group of faculty. The ones who complained the most about students asking questions that were already answered in the syllabus were the same ones who asked questions already answered in the group emails, which I sent out sparingly. Cracked me up. Story 53. I am incredibly calm under pressure. If anything, I thrive on having an urgent problem to solve. I believe it is because I actually live in a state of constant anxiety. Therefore, a situation intensifying to a level 11 is no big deal when I am living daily life at a level 10 already. Story 54. It is all the things that are normal for Generation X and older, like leaving your personal life at the door when you go to work. In the workplace, no one cares who you are or what you think about anything, so you are not supposed to bring any of that with you. You show up to do the job as agreed. Your personal life resumes when you leave. I am incapable of understanding the younger employees who act like they are going to school or some kind of social event. It is work. You work and work, not talk about who you are, no one cares, or talk about things that have nothing to do with work. It seems they cannot grasp this concept. Older people do not need to put that on their resume, but if the hiring manager is Generation X or older, they understand. Story 55. I'm quick to point out issues that need addressing, generally maintenance and information technology issues. I work in a warehouse which is quite large with only a few people on our facilities team at a time. This makes it hard to catch everything, but I am quick to notice and inform someone if I find an issue that might otherwise be overlooked. I am also good at explaining the issues I identify and demonstrating them if needed. I like to think that a number of improvements and fixes in my department have been due to my efforts, probably my ego. If I did not have certain physical and mental barriers limiting my options, namely, misophonia keeping me out of extremely noisy areas of the building, and claustrophobia during times when our facilities team has to work in small spaces, I would consider transferring to either maintenance or information technology with some training. However, I am sure I will find something else suited to my strengths. Story 56. Autism and Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. I am extremely detail-oriented and obsessed with numbers, so I enjoy many jobs that most neurotypical people would find mind-numbing and boring. Story 57. Especially as an accountant. 1. Boundless curiosity and creativity to generate new ideas. And 2. The ability to scale those new ideas back to develop something affordable and realistic. I have been in professional services for over a decade, trained nearly 100 people on various teams over the years, and have only had 2 or 3 people in that time with a real talent for and interest in complex problem solving. This is an unbelievably desirable trait for an employee to have. Pairing that with a desire to dive deep into issues, come up with novel solutions, and then execute them is essentially a superpower when combined. The downside is that the person who can do all of that will lose their mind doing ordinary work and will have a hunger for new and interesting problems to solve. This tends to make them professional nomads, best suited to support a broad range of clients by dropping in, fixing the most immediate issue, and then stepping back for a while. This challenge is exacerbated by the fact that most consulting firms do not want to offer something especially great or ideal for the client, as that is not the way to maximize revenue. There are many more details that could be interesting to others, but I will see if there is any interest before investing time to share them. To summarize, valuable, unique, and needed does not equal most employer valued or an easy professional path. Story 58. I am incredibly good at understanding, simplifying, and improving complex processes. I moved through different industries, and when I landed in manufacturing, an executive recommended Six Sigma. It really helped me communicate how my mind naturally works, and I have found it to be applicable to every aspect of life. Story 59. Problem-solving skills. A big problem with people nowadays is if they do not know how to do something, they refuse to do it. It is amazing how many times a day people come to me with an issue, and I say, I do not know, but I will find out. I research and learn. I hear them going to others, and the response is, I do not know, sorry. Story 60. I have a strange but strong ability to predict the future. I have predicted people quitting months in advance, outcomes from scientific investigations before we even had data, coworkers becoming pregnant, and so on. The most remarkable prediction was when I foresaw my boss's death. For some reason, I had a strong feeling he was going to die and even mentioned it to him and his family, as it was a family-run company. Of course, no one took me seriously. Then, a few weeks later, he died suddenly due to a major heart attack while at work. Story 61. I can solve almost any issue people face with their technology devices or machines. If someone brings me a problem, I dedicate my time to fixing it. Even if I cannot solve it immediately, I keep working to understand the issue until it is resolved. I do not know what it is, but I just cannot walk away without finding a solution. Sometimes, I even forget my own tasks while helping others. I am not sure if it is a strength or a weakness, but I genuinely cannot let a problem go unfixed. Story 62. Okay, but real talk. I can calm down literally any dramatic coworker. I don't know how, but people just vent to me and leave calm. Not on my resume, but should be. Story 63. I can predict the future. Not really, but if I have a few pieces of the puzzle, I can see what is going to happen next. I do have to be careful, though, as sometimes the information is confidential. If I guess correctly, people assume I snooped or someone else told me. Story 64. I am in engineering, and the communication skills of people around me are often lacking. I find that I am really good at helping or guiding others to get their point across. I use tactical questions, lots of summarizing, and subtle prodding to help others make people understand their point. Story 65. Knowing how to respond to difficult people at work. You do not want to look disrespectful, but you also cannot tolerate all the nonsense. Story 66. I can skin a dead mouse in less than 10 seconds, which is not impressive unless you have a bunch of baby birds or prey that need to eat. I cannot put that on a resume, though. Creeps people out. Story 67. Social skills. I am a doctor of philosophy physicist, and seeing the lack of basic social navigation skills is astounding among many peers. I boast a couple of research awards I have received and attribute them to being a good communicator. Story 68. I have the quality that people say Bill Clinton has. The room can be full of people, but I can make the person I'm talking to feel like the only person there, incredibly valued and important. It's not a conscious thing I do. I'm just amazed by all walks of life and the variety of people. When I ask questions, I'm genuinely interested in the answers and can't get enough. I became a business owner 15 years ago, and I get reviews all the time from my clients who say I made them feel very important and cared for. When I am with my clients, I love them. I tell people that I'm not faking it when I say I love my clients. People can tell when you are faking love. I genuinely and deeply care for them when I'm with them. Story 69. The ability to adapt and fit in anywhere is important. Whether it is a new job, different culture, or a random group of people, I can usually read the room and adjust without losing myself. It is like social shape-shifting. Story 70. I have exceptional conflict resolution skills. Show me a group of people who dislike each other and disagree but need to work together towards a shared goal, and I will make that work with relative ease. Ideally, most of them will trust me and be content with the resolution. My employer recognized this skill and promoted me accordingly. I believe it is similar to what a previous poster described as being able to assess the atmosphere. I assessed that atmosphere. I think it is a trauma response, but I am grateful I have been able to monetize it. Story 71, Troubleshooting. My father is an electrician and mechanic by training. He has demonstrated how he solved problems with our house or car since I was young and later encouraged me to figure out the problems myself. Once, he tampered with the engine in my car to see how long it would take me to identify the issue. Since I left university, I have had a series of jobs where this skill has been extremely valuable. I worked in computer repair and then spent 30 years in enterprise production support. Story 72. I make life fun. From telling a corny joke to using self-effacing humor while doing the job. I was once awarded Employee of the Year for bringing much-needed humor to our team. Story 73. I have had this quality described to me both favorably and unfavorably, but my favorite way anyone has ever described it was actually told to me secondhand by a colleague. Don't worry. If there is a problem with the plan, I'm Super Serial Guys will find it, and he will definitely tell you about it. I will diplomatically describe it as being straightforward when needed, even when it might be unpleasant, not for lack of effort, but lack of knowing it is unpleasant. Story 74. I notice when people are experiencing burnout. I don't always fix it, but I check in, lighten their load, or just make them laugh. That interpersonal skill helps keep teams from falling apart quietly. Story 75. Having a high tolerance for nonsense, just rolling with it when people do not make a lot of sense. I have seen good workers in their fields have issues staying at a job because they could not deal with unreasonable situations. Story 76. Through honestly no actual effort on my part and not what people expect given my disdain for networking, I somehow seem to be no more than 2 or 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon from basically everyone in my state, my fields of employment, as well as a stunning number of highly placed people around the world. A good deal of it is thanks to my husband and his unusual upbringing, but the number of people I know from various aspects of my life is just mind-boggling. So I may loathe having to socialize, but if you need to know someone who knows someone, I am your person. I am happy to introduce people, but really, leave me out of it afterward, please. I know this sounds like a humble brag, but I am a terrible introvert and there are only about 10 non-family members on this earth I will voluntarily leave the house for, and that number drops by half if we are talking about picking up the phone closeness. I am 40, not a Generation Z or Generation Alpha. Story 77. Teamwork and collaboration are important. Most jobs prefer team players who may be less qualified over a genius who does not work well with others. Story 78. I consider myself the baptism by fire person. Throughout my career, I have been thrown into situations and environments with little or no training or guidance and have just made it work to the point that I frequently become the go-to person for questions in a very short time. Story 79. My attitude is positive. You will never catch me having a bad mood at work, and I will always be happy to help out with something immediately, if my own work is not time-sensitive. Also, I am awesome at fostering office culture. How do you advertise that about yourself? Story 80. I am pretty good at war gaming scenarios in that I like to figure out cause and effect situations several degrees deep. This makes strategy conversations better. Story 81. How to use Google. I have become the go-to troubleshooter because I know how to look up things I do not know or do not understand. Sure, anyone can type a Google search, but with how complicated the algorithm has become, plus artificial intelligence taking over everything, it is getting harder to find the answer you actually need. This is especially true in an office full of people in their 50s and 60s. Story 82. Being able to improvise is a huge part of my work. I am a network engineer, and the amount of MacGyver-like solutions I have had to come up with over the years to keep a company running in an emergency could become a reality show. All the best engineers I know have this ability. Story 83. I can remember things. If you ask me about something from 5 years ago, I can quickly search my memory and tell you exactly what happened. Since we handle a large amount of data and many people, this ability is very helpful. Story 84. I can learn any topic quickly. It sounds like something a high school student might say. However, give me a topic I have never heard of, and I can dive into it quickly. Story 85. I am able to deal with lots of stress and nonsense. I do my job and I like my job. I stay away from work drama. Story 86. I respect people regardless of their title. Being younger with a position, most of my staff are elderly, and I respect them equally as I respect everyone else with a higher position. Like grade point average, everyone started with 4.0. I used to give 3 chances to everyone. Story 87. I remember things I see or hear in great detail. I can tell you exactly what you told me 6 months ago or what you wore to the office holiday party. Sometimes it is quite a curse. Story 88. Working hard and completing orders gives me satisfaction. Having a strict deadline makes me work harder and optimize my production. It makes work feel like a challenge. But if a task is impossible, I tell my boss not to sell so many products. The factory moved to another city, a 5-hour drive away. I taught everything I knew to new employees and left the company. I was the only one on the production line. Now they pay me double the salary and provide hotel reservations for a few weeks now and then. They are struggling because new employees lack motivation. To them, it is just work. They are slow and unmotivated. To me, it was like a hobby, a way to relax. Story 89. Redneck engineering. I work in development, so there is usually not a budget for the ideal system needed to fix a problem. Therefore, you find other avenues for a solution. I also grew up around rednecks. It is the same with them. Story 90. I think outside the box, seeing tasks that need doing or weak points that can be a huge benefit to the workplace or business. You might think, that can go on a resume. But it really can't with most jobs where they want you to do the job the way you're trained. I've been on both sides of interviews many times, and here is some simple advice. Asterisk, if it is a big enough job, they will call your references. Make your number 1 reference ideally someone who is retired, super charismatic and friendly, vaguely knows you or knows of you, and is not direct family. Even if this person cannot comment on your work history, most hiring managers are just people. And if they love talking to your reference, they will probably favor you. Asterisk, if you need the job, especially if you're desperate, say so. Say you need this job and that you will work very hard to keep it. You are both appealing to their compassion and indicating you will show up and try to be there. Have you ever worked with someone who was young and seemed not to care about the job? Saying you need the job shows you are the opposite of that, which is a good thing. Asterisk, the harder you try to hide your usual self just to look good for the interview, the more obvious it will probably be. Just like dating, you will probably do better if you just show up as yourself. I once interviewed a candidate for a management position who was clearly uncomfortably overdressed, badly styled, and was a sweaty mess of discomfort and fear. I felt for the candidate, but if they had shown up in a t-shirt and even had a tiny amount of confidence, I would probably have considered that better. Asterisk, know your target audience. You can make assumptions based on the kind of business. If in doubt, walk in and observe what the employees wear daily and how they act. Be like them, or better yet, be yourself similar to them. Story 91. I am extremely reliable and highly organized, which means I can manage a large amount of work and multiple projects. Story 92. Honestly, just knowing when to be silent is important. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is say nothing. It keeps you out of drama, helps you avoid saying something you might regret, and allows you to pay attention to what is happening around you. Story 93. Stillness. I am usually immune to bad days and not overly excited by fun at the office. I am just about neutral most of the time. Story 94. I am personable and can engage in small talk. In engineering, that is about 90% of what it takes to get promoted. Story 95. I can see what things will become an issue down the line and try to address them before they become a problem. I would not say I am a downer, but every time a manager comes up with a new idea, I am really good at pointing out all the potential issues we may have and offering solutions or workarounds to make it run smoother. Story 96. Huge procrastinator. You might think it is a negative, but I always find the most efficient way of doing things. Also, once I understand how or why something is, I know it completely. To learn to drive a manual car, I researched how a transmission works. Once I understood that, I went out and drove the car. Story 97. I am able to multitask better than most. I often conduct meetings or hold conversations while preparing and reviewing taxes. Story 98. I can read a room like a novel. If the atmosphere shifts, I know. If someone is overwhelmed, I soften. If we need energy, I bring it. No one trains you to be emotionally multilingual, but it is the reason teams trust me without always knowing why. Story 99. I am naturally very good with people, especially those older than me. I think that is why sales and marketing have come easily to me, and also why teaching is so rewarding. Story 100. I bond teams by being incredibly transparent, making sure everyone has a voice in every meeting, admitting weaknesses, and asking for help when I need it. It gives everyone permission to do the same and encourages people to support each other. Helping everyone feel valued goes a long way. Story 101. I'm really good at figuring out what someone needed to ask or tell me, rather than what they actually asked or told me, and then helping them get what they need. So when someone comes and asks, "Hey, how do I set this spreadsheet up so that people can only edit some parts of it?" I can very quickly work out that what they actually want to know for what they're trying to produce is how to create a Google or Microsoft form. Then I talk them through what it does and how to do it, without them feeling stupid or stressed. I have a comprehensive knowledge of all the commonly available tools, applications, and platforms at my company, and I'm very good at figuring out how to help other people get the most out of them. But that's shockingly hard to put on a curriculum vitae, and there is no diploma you can get for knowing how our information technology systems actually fit together and being able to translate that for my colleagues. Story 102. I know a little about many topics. This has proven useful in connecting with clients during meetings and maintaining the flow of conversation. Story 103. My stubbornness. I will argue with project managers for hours about why a quick fix will hurt us in the long run and why we should do it the right but longer way. Story 104. I am able to mentally endure and calm angry customers very well. I am not stressed by angry people. Story 105. I am a problem solver. People come to me when no one else knows how to fix an issue they are having or need a special tool made, a jig made, or reverse engineer something. It also helps that I am very likable. I can get along with almost everyone. Story 106. I have a good memory. Ask me to do something, and I will not forget it easily or do it in a careless way. I pride myself on being reliable. Story 107. Skills. 1. Talking people out of suicide. Defusing armed individuals. Encouraging people to confide in me about murder. Making police officers laugh and move along. Getting a bully to beg me to stop by simply looking at them. You work for me now. Story 108. I was the trainer and mentor for all the new hires, especially those fresh out of school. I showed them shortcuts and explained the company culture. Although some aspects of the culture were difficult, they needed to know. I guided them on who would help them, who could not be trusted, and things they should keep to themselves. I emphasized the importance of keeping good records, saving emails, documenting everything, and always protecting themselves. These are not directly part of the job, but they help you succeed and survive in the role. Story 109. My brain is like a steel trap for fun facts and random bits of information. That might not seem useful, but I have made connections with customers that lead to bigger sales surprisingly often because I knew something interesting somewhat relevant to what they were looking for. Story 110. I have an insatiable desire to figure things out and understand them, which has led me to acquire a wide array of knowledge in many applicable areas in addition to my specialties, and has helped me become excellent at finding solutions. Story 111. I always respond to someone's Microsoft Teams message or email on time and never leave someone waiting. It's a small action but makes me seem dependable, easy to work with, and likable, important qualities in the corporate world. Story 112. Ability to quietly hide in the office in plain sight and get away with not working while looking concentrated or frustrated. So no one bothers me. In reality, I am on Reddit, Imager, and occasionally YouTube. I get my work done in roughly the first 2 hours of the morning and then just sit there pretending to work when I am not. Story 113. My attention deficit hyperactivity disorder means I handle chaos better than most people. Unfortunately, it also means I rarely complete one task before getting distracted by something else when things are calm. Story 114. I am very clever. I come up with wild ideas that end up working out consistently. It is impossible to convey that to a recruiter or hiring manager, so I have to rely on charm and charisma. But wouldn't it be great if I said, "Trust me, I am pretty clever." Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.